What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for April 17th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the podcast. As we always do, let's get into some housekeeping. First, be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, at PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and continue to spread the word as we grow this thing. Some big things coming up on the horizon, some programming things I'm thinking about doing. So stay tuned for all of that. And remember, all my social media, including my Facebook as well as my LinkedIn, I put clips, newspaper photos, pictures, all kinds of things to spice up what we're talking about to give you the visual as well. So all of that is on my social media. And again, lots of good discussions on my Facebook page when it comes to the question of the day. So go ahead, get into that. Always remember to call or text on the Back to the Future voice and text line with anything. If I get something wrong, you want to tell me my take is idiotic, all of that is fair game, but that's on the Back to the Future voice and text line as well. All right, so before we get into anything, I wanted to announce the official 2025 Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction class. And last year was big because of Chase and Ryan. I think this year's class is even bigger. So the inductees are Bo Robertson from football and track, Christy Morgan from field hockey, Clyde Simmons from football. His little starting lineup is right there over my shoulder. Dwight Muhammad Kwai from boxing, Eddie Coyle, who is a power lifter and a para-Olympian, Gary Williams from basketball, the coach of the Maryland Terrapins, Mary Ellen Clark as a diver, Mendy Rudolph from basketball, Mike Rozier for football, Poe Holmgren for hockey, Roy Thomas for baseball, and Virginia Allen for lacrosse. Now, this year, there's also 3 individuals who are receiving the Legacy of Excellence Award. These are often contributors from outside of the field of play. And these 3 are Alan Lewis, who is a sports writer, Dick Girardi, sports writer. I remember all of his horse racing commentary, his college basketball. Dude's won me a lot of money on NCAA pools as well as the Triple Crown horse races. And Lynn Carter, who is a boxing judge. So 3 Legacy of Excellent award winners this year. 2 teams are being honored on anniversary years. The 1925 Hilldale Daisies, who were the Negro World Series champions and include 4 Philadelphia Sports Hall of Famer. We did a lot with them last year when I worked with Brian Michael for A League Apart, that display when I went over to Cherry Hill. And by the way, I'll give them a quick shout out. If you want to see that, they're at St. Joe's this year. And the 1985 Villanova Wildcats, who won the national championship, we just talked about that earlier this month, stunned the heavily favored Georgetown Hoyas. Raleigh Massimino is a Philadelphia Sports Hall of Famer for that team. And this one doesn't happen often. And it's only happened 3 times in the history of the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. There will be a Philadelphia Medal Award winner this year. The other 2 that received it were Ed Snyder and the Sables, Steve and Ed from NFL Films. This year, the Hall of Fame is honoring Jeffrey Lurie for all of his work as Eagles owner, 2 Super Bowl champions. Kind of got ridiculed when he said the Eagles were the gold standard, and now that has come to fruition. But it's so much more than that. Jeffrey does so much in the field of for autism, raising money and autism research. So well-deserved. But Jeffrey Lurie is this year's Philadelphia Medal winner. If you want any information on tickets, you can go right there to the link in the description. I will, as we get closer to November ceremony, though, I will do a more in-depth spotlight on all the inductees. But now that the class has been officially announced, wanted to get that out to you. And like I said, should be an awesome evening in November down at Live Casino. But very excited for this year's class. I did get some feedback yesterday as well on our missing rings. One Night in Bangkok on YouTube commented, that Lenny Dykstra was a big part of that 93 team. How come he wasn't honored or a part of John Kruk and Darren Daulton? And honestly, and in sort of looking back at it, it had nothing to do with his off-the-field antics and being not a good person or anything like that. I probably should have included him. I didn't put him on because he did win a ring in New York. However, I did include Darren Daulton, who did win one with the Marlins. So in hindsight, I probably should have either made it just John Kruk or included Lenny Dykstra, because Lenny was here longer than John Kruk and played on equally as shitty teams as what Kruk and Daulton did. So good point out, One Night in Bangkok on YouTube for that one. I probably should have included Lenny Dykstra on the missing rings. But see, those are the things. Interact, get your thoughts, get your opinions heard, and you might be announced on the podcast. Go check out One Night in Bangkok on YouTube. Actually, maybe you shouldn't, now that I'm thinking about it. Either way. All right, so let's get into it. And the Phillies. I don't know. I don't know. Like, that was just a brutal game. Aaron Nola, I've been kind of saying that he's been solid in his starts, which he has, minus the home runs. But yesterday was just, that was the worst I've ever seen him pitch. And we were talking on one of the text chains I'm on, and he has completely fallen off the cliff. Now, if you remember back to the end of that golden era run in like 2012, 2013, how quickly it fell apart for Roy Halladay and even to a lesser extent Cliff Lee. We're kind of, I don't want to go there and jump to conclusions yet, but he's not been good. And with Roy Halladay, it was like part of it was injuries, part of it was his body broke down. And Nola's been doing this for a long time. And I don't want to necessarily say that is happening right now with Nola, but I don't know. It's something that we're going to have to continue to monitor, but just a brutal game, 11-4. Nothing like wanting to just settle in, watch a Phillies game, and then boom, they're down 4-0, and look like crap doing it. Bryce hit the home run to kind of get them back into it, and then nobody else did anything. No one, not one person on the team did a damn thing. Luckily for the Phillies, the NL East has not been great. They're still only like a game or two out of first place, but man, it's been brutal. They'll look to salvage a split this afternoon. Christopher Sanchez on the mound. God, let's just hope that, I don't know. But that does lead to today's question of the day. Is it time to panic about the Phillies? And I feel like it's early. We're 18 games into the season. But for me, this is the stakes are so high that I don't think you have a ton of room or a ton of things left to kind of figure it out. Like maybe another couple weeks. But is it time to panic about this team? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Like, I'm a little bit more than concerned about this team. That's why I'm using the word panic. Like, we've used the word concerned a lot in our questions of the day for the Phillies. But I'm a little way worse than concerned right now about this team. So is it time to panic? I think so. What does that mean? God, if I know. Because there's so many things that need to be fixed and rectified here. But are you panicking about the Phillies? Let me know your thoughts on the Back to the Future voice and text line and any of my social media. All right. Flyers close out the regular season tonight against the Sabres. And then it's on to the draft, and we'll kind of figure out what they're going to do. They have a lot of draft capital, should be very active on draft night. It's just that the Stanley Cup playoffs take 3 months, so we got a long ways to go before the draft happens. But Flyers close out the season tonight. And then Sixers, before we get into today's Tankathon pick, let's recap yesterday's question of the day, because we've been doing a Tankathon every day. And if you don't know what the Tankathon is, it's a website that basically simulates what the lottery will be based on what the standings are. And so now that they're final, we're doing one every day just to kind of see the different options the Sixers have. But I asked you, do you trust Elton Brand and Daryl Morey to make the Sixers pick? 91% of you said absolutely not. And like I said yesterday, as I was going through it, I was talking myself out of it. But lots of great discussion and comments on the Facebook page for that. Rob from Coatesville said if it's a no top 5 pick, it's a no-brainer. Those 5 guys, it's just a matter of who falls to you. But that's where it gets dicey. If it's not the top 5 pick, somebody wanted to move the team to Nashville. Bobby from St. Joe's. Yikes. I don't know if that's where I want to go with that one. And then lots of people saying who they would trust more to make the pick than Daryl Morey and Elton Brand. One person with their 6-year-old. The other person, shots fired, would trust the New York Football Giants general manager to make this pick more so than Daryl Morey. That is scathing. That is scathing. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. We'll have another one today, which is, are you in panic mode with the Phillies? I think you have to be. All right, today's Tankathon. I ran the simulation this morning. I tried to do it right before I come on to record. Number 1 pick. Second time now the Sixers have gotten the number 1 pick. I'm feeling good. We've gotten the first pick, the third pick, or first pick twice, third pick, and then the 6th pick. So feeling good right now. It's still early. We got a couple weeks before we get to the NBA draft lottery. But Sixers pulled the number 1 pick today, according to Tankathon.com. All right, speaking of drafts, we are 1 week away from the Eagles, or the NFL draft, and what the Eagles will do. We will begin our draft spotlight on Monday. Going to go through and look at each round of the NFL draft and highlight some of the best draft picks the Eagles had, trying to bring some of that good mojo into this year's draft. There's been lots of talk about whether or not the Eagles can continue to hit at the rate they have been in the draft. So we're going to do our part and celebrate the best picks. A lot of times on this podcast, we do things worst, and I'm trying to live what I say and make this new Philly. So we're going to celebrate the best draft picks, starting with supplemental, then going to undrafted, 8th round and on, and then count down 1 or 7, or I forget how I'm doing it, but either way, each round specifically 1 through 7. There is the supplemental we're gonna do undrafted as well as guys, because at one point this was like a 30-round draft, so we'll do the best draft picks from round 8 or higher. So looking forward to that. Lots of good players in Eagles history, but that kicks off on Monday. Be sure to check out my boys over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Lots of great things happening with their sports fan network as they are trying to get people connected. Go to clashingconferences.com. Check out what they have to offer. You can also check out their podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. But Steven and the crew, great things. Just being associated with them. And I tell you, I talk with Steven minimum once a month, just as content creator to content creator. And dude has a ton of great ideas, and it shows on the podcast. So go check them out, and then go to clashingconferences.com to check out what they have to offer. And then yesterday I mentioned Philly Goat has partnered with Jordan Spector, and I've told you this dude has been on my radar for a while. If you haven't checked out any of his Spector art, go to Philly Goat's website, check it out. Some of his paintings or I shouldn't say some, all of his paintings are absolutely incredible. And Philly Goat has partnered up. You can get different sized prints. They make great decorations for your office, your man cave, whatever you want to do. They also make great gifts. We talked about getting those rocks glass with the Philly Fanatic on it for a Father's Day gift. If your dad has an office or a man cave, this makes a great gift for Father's Day. So go to phillygoat.com, check out the Jordan Spector collection. And be sure to use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. But again, if you're not familiar with Jordan Spector, be sure to check out all of his prints and what he does. Has some phenomenal Philly sports-related paintings and artwork. So go check it out. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery and take 10% off of your order. All right, kind of a slight double header today. But the main focus we're going to go back to 1976. And on this day in 1976, the Phillies and Cubs played in a wild one at Wrigley Field, which seemed to happen often with these two teams. Steve Carlton started for the Phils, lasted only 1 2/3 inning, gave up 7 earned runs. Obviously, it was a windy day out in the Windy City. The Cubs had leads of 12-1 and 13-3 in this game. But it didn't matter because the Phillies had Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt came into the game early in the season hitting 167 with 9 strikeouts in 4 games. But he completely turned it around on this day in 1976, going 5 for 6, 8 RBI, and 4 straight home runs, including the go-ahead 2-run shot in the top of the 10th. Mike became only the 10th player in Major League Baseball history to hit 4 home runs in a game. And if you're keeping score at home, like I know a lot of you are, 8 more players have done it since that day in 1976. The last time it occurred, 2017, when J.D. Martinez did it. Mike also became the second Philly to do it. Ed Delhonte did it in the 1800s. For the 1976 season, though, Mike would end up leading the majors with 38 home runs. And he credits Dick Allen. If you watch the MLB special, the Michael Jack Schmidt one, he credits Dick Allen for him hitting 4 home runs that day. Coming into the game, he was pressing, not much unlike what Alec Boehm is doing right now. And Dick Allen told him to relax and have fun. You're playing a game. And Mike responded by hitting 4 home runs. And a little quick side note on this one, I talked about the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame inductees. And I always look through newspapers.com to kind of see what the spin and the angle and really see what the vibe was about these events. And ironically enough, I mentioned Alan Lewis was one of the one of the winners of the Legacy of Excellence. I wanted to make sure I got it right. He wrote the story in the Philadelphia Inquirer today, or on this day, for Mike Schmidt hitting the 4 home runs. So there it comes, all full circle. But on this day in 1976, Phillies beat the Cubs 18-16. Mike Schmidt, 4 home runs, 10th player in Major League Baseball history to do so. And we know the Phillies would turn it around that season and win the division and win 101 games before getting swept by the Big Red Machine. All right, so the rest of the podcast kind of all ties together. So also on this day in 1999, Donovan McNabb was drafted number 2 overall out of Syracuse. I remember this very well because everybody wanted Ricky Williams, and I was a big fan of McNabb. I didn't want I thought Couch was going to be – no way the Eagles were going to get Tim Couch. And then I liked McNabb over Culpepper, and Achilles Smith were the other two. And I forget there was a third quarterback that everybody was talking about. But everybody in Philly, almost everybody, I should say, wanted Ricky Williams. And I remember sitting at a retreat during my training to do the orientation for Temple. And the guy knew we were out in the middle of Bucks County somewhere. And the guy knew I wanted to follow the draft, so he was listening on the radio, and I was like, as soon as they make a pick, let me know. And we were eating lunch, and he came in, and he was like, they took McNabb, and he was pissed off because he wanted Ricky Williams. And I remember being like, that's amazing. That's absolutely, and he was like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just a young kid. But we know famously McNabb was booed at the draft and never really fully, I think, warmed up to the Philly fans due to that. Obviously, it was just a small core group of Eagles fans led by WIP. Didn't really represent everybody's feelings, but he kind of never got over it, and that kind of led to his downfall. Or I shouldn't say downfall, but just led to him never – he always had that chip on his shoulder. But on this day in 1999, the Eagles took Donovan McNabb, number 2 overall. And that leads perfectly into our missing ring spotlight today. And today's missing ring spotlight, I put both of these guys together because for the most part, their careers in Philly, minus a couple years at the beginning for the one and 1 year at the end for the other, kind of all coincided with each other. And that is Donovan McNabb and Brian Dawkins. Obviously, Donovan played here from 1999 to 2009. Hands down, even now to this day, and you can hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line about this on my social media, but you'd be wrong. He is the best quarterback as of this moment in Eagles history. Now, is Jalen Hurts breathing down his neck? Absolutely. But as it stands right now, slight nod still to Donovan. And you look at the numbers. Yes, he didn't win a Super Bowl, but he was an up and down sort of career for Donovan. Biggest takeaway and thing with Donovan was not being able to hit the short ball or a short pass, always throwing it low. But, man, Donovan had a beautiful deep pass. And just look at some of the highlights throughout his career. The TO year, he was basically unstoppable. And then their egos got in the way. Just never could get them over the top. Brian Dawkins played from 1996 to 2008. He was a Hall of Famer, heart and soul of that defense, fan favorite, kind of the tale of two sort of careers where everybody loved Brian Dawkins and McNabb was lukewarm at best. But the best chance for those two to win a championship, I mean, take your pick. I mean, you can go 2004 when they actually got to the Super Bowl. Donovan may or may not have been hungover or whatever anybody says. Spygate, like so many different things, but they just couldn't get it done again in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. But I don't think that was their best chance. I still think the Tampa Bay year 2002, that was their best chance to win a Super Bowl. Had they beat Tampa Bay in the NFC Championship game, they would have steamrolled the Raiders just like Tampa Bay did, but just couldn't get over the hump. And again, you can put that one on Donovan. The 03 Carolina game, they had a shot. I wouldn't put that on Donovan because he took a cheap shot. Guys were not making plays. Defense played well, but offensively they couldn't get it going after the cheap shot. You can say, I mean, and again, they made it to 5 NFC Championship games, so they always had a shot. But I think in 2001, they were too young against the Rams. 08, though, I think was their second best chance. I put 02 as their best chance. 08, they had the best team on paper, just played inconsistent all year. And in that NFC Championship game, Donovan did give the defense the lead. He left the field with the lead. Defense couldn't get the job done. Brian Dawkins didn't necessarily play his best in that game. Neither did anybody else on the defense. But again, two different personalities, two different relationships with the fans. However, both of these guys deserve to win rings, and they just could never get it done. Many chances to get there. Only got there once and couldn't get it done. But Donovan McNabb and Brian Dawkins are today's missing ring spotlight, all in honor of this being the anniversary of when the Eagles selected Donovan number 2 overall back in 1999. Also on this day in 1976, Mike Schmidt hit 4 home runs, 4 straight, including the go-ahead 2-run homer in the top of the 10th to beat the Cubs 18-16. That's a mouthful. Out at Wrigley Field, becoming the 10th player in Major League Baseball history to hit 10 home runs. We'll have more as we can start focusing now on the Eagles draft. Remember, Eagles draft starts, our Eagles draft coverage highlighting the best picks from each round starts on Monday. We'll also have more on the Tankathon. Where do the Sixers pick? We'll have an update on the Flyers' final standings and where they look at for the NHL lottery. We'll have something about the Phillies after they close out their series today against the Giants. Be sure to get your thoughts in. Is it time to panic with the Phillies? Hit me up on social media or the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. Come over to the Facebook page. Have some fun with the discussion over there. Don't forget, tomorrow is Friday. We spend Fridays with AI here on This Day in Philly Sports History as we close out the work week. An off week for me, but a work week nonetheless. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for April 17th, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Thursday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.